So when I can help people feel better about themselves because they got bullied in school, because their once-in-a-lifetime marriage didn't work, because their partnership didn't work out for whatever reason, the job didn't work, and this is something that allows them to see that they are still amazing human beings. My biggest fear in a wedding, and the idea that I may not get that photograph as somebody is saying I do, for the one and only time in their life. Oddly enough, I don't really care to photograph landscapes that are in my own backyard. I see them every day. Dead battery is photographer talk for God wants you to appreciate this all to yourself and not share it with everybody else. Seeing the clouds first dancing at the edge, and I'm standing on the equivalent of a wooden pier, and the clouds literally come in to the base and then start surrounding me. It's the most gorgeous sight I have ever seen. I am okay in letting them know that I am probably not the right photographer for them and give them a referral to somebody else. And I do this for a couple of reasons. If you don't do the job wonderfully, in today's world of social media, how many times are they going to post how much they hated the experience with you? And it's never going to be mentioned that they asked you to do something you didn't want to do. And to a degree, it still is your fault for not turning it away. That will be going into the crematorium with the rest of my body, so I can be with my camera all through eternity.
So welcome to Behind the Lens, a photographer's story. This week we've got Dwayne Murphy with us. And welcome Dwayne. Nice to see you again. So for anybody that doesn't know, who is Dwayne Murphy? Where do you reside in the world? And tell us a bit about that.
Thanks for having me, Andrew. So I live in what's supposed to be sunny California. Oddly enough, today we are getting some April showers, so woohoo. I actually live in Santa Ana, Southern California, about 30 minutes south of Los Angeles and about 15 minutes away from Disneyland. So great place to be. We probably get 3 days of rain a year, and we try to live up to the name of sunny California.
So is that where the studio is exactly? Is that where you are?
The studio is in the heart of Santa Ana. It's one of the oldest cities in all of California.
Okay.
It's in the heart of a county area called Orange County. And it's probably one of the smallest counties in the country, but it's one of the economic capitals of the world.
Wow. Right. Okay. So why there? Was that where you grew up? Is it,
It was a combination of things. Number one, I grew up in Irvine. It's the heart of Orange County. Kind of wanted to get back to where I started off. And number two, it's one of the largest travel destinations that you have in the country. It's great weather. The cities that are located here would be Huntington Beach, Newport Beach, Laguna Beach. And economically, it just seems to be one of the strongest counties, one of the strongest locations you can be in. It's a great financial power. And at least in my head, part of it was being in an upscale society, I would probably have a better chance of being able to sell luxury items such as portraiture.
So what's the studio called? What's the name of your studio?
The name of my studio is Great American Portraits. And the reason for that name is I believe every person I get to talk to that comes in through our studio has a great story to tell and becomes part of the great American history. Most of the people that I've ever talked to and what reading I've done about fantastic figures as George Washington or Thomas Edison, they didn't start life wanting to be icons or heroes. Their stories just evolved that way. So I thought the name Great American Portraits was going to be very fitting for telling the stories of every person we run into.
Okay. So what got you into photography? What age were you, when you got into photography? What have you done prior? Have you just done photography all your life?
So I picked up, or more likely stole my dad's camera when I was about 10 years old.
Okay.
He came back from a cruise, had this camera called the Yashica, never really heard of it until later on. And since he didn't use it much, I just started loading it with film and walking around the neighborhood. The first photographs I remember were of the Christmas lights around the neighborhood one year, and I thought they came out really cool. And that kind of
Hmm.
got me hooked as kind of a hobby. Never really thought I could make a living at it all the way through high school, where I took several photography classes, actually ended up running the high school yearbook, and then
Okay.
decided it was time to get a real job when I was old enough to start working.
So you didn't
That led
think
into
photography was a real job at the time?
absolutely not. I knew of the, God, I'm going to say this out loud. The cheesy high school photographer where you got pulled out of class, you had 2 minutes to stand on a podium. They told you to say cheese, and that became your yearbook photograph.
Yeah.
I wasn't sports inclined, so you never saw my photographs on the football or baseball team. They never really put pictures of the computer club there. And there was one photographer in town, and I never even thought, nobody ever suggested I should go knock on his door to see if he needed some sort of assistant or apprentice. So I started my career, my working career, behind the camera counter at a Long's drugstore selling computers. Long story short, that launched into a 30-year career in IT. And towards, excuse me, towards the end of that, I picked up the camera again. I was photographing part time, and people just kept saying, you really should charge for your work. Things came to a point that I decided I wanted to come home, have dinner with my family. So I decided to sell off the IT company and opened up my first studio based in the living room of my 1,100 square foot condo on the third floor of a 60 unit building.
So
Um,
you owned the IT business beforehand.
yes, I did.
So by owning a business and doing something like that prior to doing photography, do you think that's giving you a different advantage to other people?
That has been probably one of the strongest points in my studio growing and surviving. When I first walked into a local Professional Photographers of America meeting, I heard certain things in the room, but I heard them differently. I heard we'll call them long-term career photographers. Yeah, that's a good name. I heard a lot of the career photographers going, "Oh my God, everybody has a camera. They think they can be a photographer. Oh my God, everybody thinks they can take a portrait." But what I really kept hearing was, "Oh my God, everybody has a computer. They think they can be an IT person. Oh my God, everybody has a computer. They think they know how to do the installation. They think they know how to troubleshoot." And every time somebody said camera, I just heard IT. And the one thing that I took out of IT, two things, was number one, people kept paying me to do what I thought was very basic remedial work.
Hmm.
Number two, people kept asking for it even though they had other people that could possibly do it, but they didn't know how to do it on a professional level, and they generally wanted it done right the first time. So I brought this into my studio. Nobody has a computer because they just love them. People have a computer because they want something else, and that computer allows them to get there.
Hmm.
So, in the case of photography and portraiture, my apologies. I'll
It's okay.
try to minimize the coughing. With my studio, what I very quickly realized is, despite everybody having one of these in hand,
Yeah.
they want something different. They want something that I'll say doesn't require work. When you sit down with your friends and you talk about that vacation or you talk about that great photograph, if it wasn't done last week, how long will it take you to find it on your phone? By the time you pull it up, the conversation's already gone on to 3 different subjects.
Yeah.
And with portraits, you just want to come home and I'm not even going to say see the portrait, but you want to walk in and remember that time that you're walking out to the baseball field with your son. You want to remember that time when you first baked a pie with your daughter. And seeing the portrait on the wall with those people doesn't necessarily in itself bring a smile, but it brings that feeling. And you can walk in and see this portrait 365 times a year, once a day, every day of the year. And every day that same portrait will trigger another feeling, another memory that you had with somebody that you care about. And you
Hmm.
just can't get that with your phone.
Yeah. Yeah. So photographing people on a baseball field, or what type of photography do you do? I mean, Great American Portraits, portraiture is a huge genre. So what type of genre do you work in?
My favorite 2 genres are pets and boudoir, preferably not at the same time, but thank you for asking. I grew up on a ranch, so I have an absolute love of animals. Today, we actually are the parents of 2 amazingly ungrateful rabbits. And technically, it's called boudoir beauty. We call it empowerment within our own studio. And the reason we've settled on empowerment is one of those words that has a different meaning to every person that you bring it up to. We have an
Mhm.
idea, we have a concept, but it's not any one thing in particular. And the reason for that is like I wasn't the grand slam hitting hero on the baseball team, didn't make the football team, so I've never been the superhero. And in high school, probably got pushed around a fair bit. So I always wanted to find ways to feel good both about myself,
Mhm.
and it's turned into a need to help other people feel good about the things that are part of them, but they don't necessarily see in themselves.
Right. So it's that connection. That,
It's a connection, but I think it's actually deeper than that. We get up, we get dressed, we go through a routine to go to work every day, and it's a process. But when we come home, we just completed the routine. We didn't actually do anything that's amazing. Um, I'll pick on my wife as I love her dearly. She is an amazing human being. One of the,
what's your wife called?
we call her Shaggy. Her name is Shigami. And Shaggy gets up every day. She is an accountant at a medical recovery firm. And she puts on a baggy t shirt. She puts on baggy jeans, hardly ever needs to wear makeup. And if you ask her, she's, well, just her. To me, the world obviously moves around her. And when she allows me to photograph her, she's absolutely stunning. And without prompting, when she sees the photographs, she's going, wow, I forgot that I can look like that. I never saw myself in that way. And I look like more than just somebody who sits behind the desk. And you can see her entire posture change. And it's a great feeling to see that. Um, about 3 months ago, I photographed an amazing lady named Jodi, and she now holds the record in my studio. She came in wanting a boudoir experience, And when we started talking, it turns out that her husband used to work in the Orange County Jail. And when he retired, he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, was told that he had about 6 months to live.
Oh dear. Yeah.
He passed on some 2 weeks later. Immediately after passing, Jodi went out and had her first tattoo put on. And the first one was one of her cats. The second one she had was put between her shoulder blades, and it simply read, "Everything's going to be okay, sweetie." And that's what her husband told her every night before going to bed.
Right. Mm-hmm.
When I met her, she'd come through our studio during one of the art walks. And
What's an art walk?
so an art walk is a community gathering. One day a month where my studio is located, we call it the first Saturday. And most businesses open up. The community is invited to come out, enjoy live music, walk from shop to see what the shops have to offer. In my studio, I am always displaying different portraiture on the walls so people can see what photography is or looks like these days. And it gives us an opportunity to meet them. Once they move on from my studio next door, there are sculptors, there are musicians. It's a reason to get out of the house and quite
Sounds
literally meet the
special.
community.
That sounds really nice. Yeah, really good. Yeah.
They're fantastic when they come together. One of the reasons why I chose to have the studio in Santa Ana.
So she came in on one of these days
She
then,
came
on a Saturday.
she came in with her daughter and granddaughter. She We started talking and wanted to learn more about the sessions because her words were, "I wished I would have done this before." And she chose to have a session with us. During our talks, turns out that is 72 years old. Um, we did a number of outfit changes from full dress to was amazing when she came out with her strappy Honey Burdette outfit. And this woman was so alive. Her husband has been gone now for 15 years. She wants to find somebody in her life to spend her days with,
Right.
so full of energy, and just at this point doesn't care. She she loved seeing herself as a woman again instead of a grandma. She
Mm-hmm.
loved seeing herself being able to get dressed up because she spends most of her days at home. And to see this human being come back out of, we call it the treasure chest. Aladdin got out of his lamp and was freed to go out and run around and be happy again.
Mm-hmm.
When we were talking, she wanted to have a set of boudoir out a, a collection of lingerie photographs for her bedroom. And she wasn't sure how the family was going to feel about it.
Right.
And when we were done, we picked out several photos to create a collection. And this collection didn't show anything obvious, but was more thought provoking, and now proudly displays in her living room. That's how much she fell in love with it. And more importantly, how much she's come back to life.
Right.
She is hoping that her daughters will have a similar experience when they're in their 50s and 60s instead of waiting so long.
It's funny,
It's
isn't it? Because you're talking about somebody of an age that a lot of people would just never associate with doing something like boudoir, at that age. I mean, a lot of people perceive it as the thing purely for the youth.
absolutely. And I think it becomes more and more important to have sessions like this as people get older. Going through high school, it was always I'll say this out loud, a high schooler's fantasy to have a job photographing women. But now that I'm in my 50s, it's not about seeing people physically. it's about seeing the people that have been locked away.
Yeah.
Um, I'll use myself as an example. So I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at 16.
All right.
I wasn't the muscular superheroes I've already pointed out. Over the past couple of years, I've had multiple surgeries to put Humpty Dumpty back together again because I fell down 2 flights of stairs.
Oh dear.
Um,
Oh, good.
my doctor told me, keep working out, stay healthy. So I'm running 5 miles one day, and literally at 2.5 miles, I took a wrong step, broke a hip.
Oh, crikey,
Um,
big Dwayne.
yeah, literally fractured the ball of the femur.
Oh,
And I'm going, my God, I've never been that Robert Redford type looking person, but I'm not exactly a troll either. My wife keeps telling me, or at least she's blind enough and thinks I'm good looking. So when we have photographs done together by other photographers, it's actually nice to come home and see that the doctors did their job quite wonderfully, and I'm still not a bad looking human being, and I might have a couple of years left. So it helps me feel better seeing the portraits of us in the house. And especially when she's part of them, it reminds me of the fact that we've now spent 25 years traveling the world together, doing stupid things as human beings. And we absolutely love that, and it makes us smile. That's what it's
now,
really about.
now I know you do travel, and obviously you've been away and just recently come back home again. So, is the traveling part of the photography? Is it totally separate? Because I mean, I know you portraiture, but is there is there something in that? Do you go out and do landscapes? Do you do something different? What? Tell me about that.
So we travel to Japan at least once a year. My wife's family is still there, so we go back to see them.
Right?
However, it started off with visiting Japan, and the first trip or two in Japanese conversational way, you've got to read a lot. And we are talking a lot into what's not being said. So after the second trip, we had several discussions and said, look, we are traveling 6,000 miles to go see our family, and I
Hmm.
absolutely love it. However, you and I have a relationship, and we need our own vacation. So we're either taking a second vacation, or we're already in an amazing place. Why don't we just take a few days on each trip and have our own mini vacation? So
Hmm.
we go see family. We have our own fun vacation. And since I am a photographer and I'm carrying gear, and I mean, really, we have Mount Fuji, we have cherry blossoms, there's the crazy Tokyo city nights. How can you not photograph this? So my wife understands that there's going to be a few days where I'm going to be carrying a camera around and I'm going to be photographing. So we have our private vacation, and then we have what I call the working vacation.
Okay.
Every trip, we travel somewhere where I get to do some landscape work. And with every trip, I actually now book a couple of client sessions every time we go. So it's
Okay.
made the travel much easier, and it has opened my eyes to totally different styles of photography.
So how to book a client in a foreign country? That How does that work? How did that come about?
You put it out in the universe and it comes back. Um,
If only it was so simple. It,
try booking a client in the county next door.
well, yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
So they don't know who you are. And I have so many photographer friends, and I mean this with the greatest of respect, but every photographer has a quote unquote brand. And my definition of brand is Maybe an institution like Lloyd's of London. Maybe it's an institution like Bank of America or Macy's, something that, or Rolex for that matter. A brand is something that can be recognized wherever you are in the world at the mention of a name. We are a local community brand, or in my definition, a local community business or hero, when 10 people outside of our studio, outside of our geographic location, can even identify who we are. So to me, booking a client overseas isn't any different than booking a client 2 counties away.
Yeah.
I have made a number of friends there. So we put out when we're going to be traveling. They put the word out and talk about us because we've already photographed them, that there's somebody who actually knows his way around and he likes to talk, likes to ask a lot of questions. And I end up photographing on this last trip. We did one portrait session. The trip prior, I ended up doing a couple of puppy portrait sessions. So dogs in front of a castle, how amazing is that?
Right. Yeah.
So that's kind of how it comes about.
So when did you then really truly get into doing photography? Because obviously you talked there a lot about your relationship and how that gives you the joy. And when did you realize that photography could give you the joy?
When I finished proper school, I was told time to get a job. And a job was something that you worked at. And so I kind of found my way around in the IT industry. Apple Computer was coming up. Microsoft was really in its early stages. And so growing up, taking computers apart, that seemed to be the natural gig. Fast forward some 30 years after doing IT installations and maintenance for probably over 100 of the best law firms in Los Angeles, Southern California, I really wanted to come home and have dinner with my family. So it's been about 10 years now that I decided that we were going to sell the IT company. And I picked up the camera and started photographing full time as we
So
were.
did you do any training? Did you just go for it? Because like suddenly making that transition from something that's so technical. I mean, photography is very technical as well. So there's maybe that geeky side of it as well. But to suddenly say, right, I'm going to do something very creatively arty from something that's very numbers based and things like that. And clinical, which is IT. Was there any training involved? Did you just go? What did you do?
Um, this has been a 10-year process. It's easy to talk about it afterwards because it always seems like it happens like that.
Yeah.
But the reality is I've been playing with camera since I was 10, maybe 15 years old. And I could always, as my artist friends like to say, see the light. I didn't understand why I could see light so much. And one of the first things I did was join Professional Photographers of America and started looking for workshops and met an amazing person named Tim Myers, who was the director of Brooks College and one of the best lighting teachers that I've ever met. And we became friends as well as educator and mentor. I took several classes from him and he began to explain and show me what I knew in the back of my head, but helped me put words to it. And through different PPA trainings and workshops, I got even better at lighting. I also understood more and more how to properly PPA master style pose people. And the business side wasn't much different than what I already knew from IT. With, in my belief, call it a luxury item, call it a needed item, but people want it for a reason, and you have to discover that reason so that you can then deliver a proper solution for it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Very non-artistic, but that's kind of the fact of the matter.
So do
The
you?
arts,
So you're telling me basically you've consciously decided to take photographs for a client um, rather than for you. There's never been. Has there been a time where you just took photographs just for you, or are you still doing that? And I'm missing the point.
I have always taken photographs for me. I will photograph my wife any chance that I get. I will photograph my pets. And when I'm out and about, I almost always have a camera in hand.
Okay.
Oddly enough, I don't really care to photograph landscapes that are in my own backyard. I see them every day. I see the Huntington Beach Pier, and it's just not of interest to me, especially when I have seen so many other amazing shots of those places. I would
Yeah.
rather credit other photographers and buy their work when I want those. But when I was making the decision to say, I don't want to do IT anymore, but I still have to work for another 20 years, how am I going to pay the bills? And people had always told me I should charge for my work when I would do, I'll call them headshots or maybe a friendly trade session, because the few model friends I had always kept asking if I would photograph them again and again, because the work that I did for them seemed to be so much better than most other people they had worked with.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew what portraits were. I knew that at least in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, people always bought portraiture and had it on their walls. Not so much in my own family's house, but I do remember my dad had a drawing of my mother. And I knew there had to be a way that it could still be sold. So I learned how to do that. And the posing skills, the lighting skills, well, in my right brain, left brain sort of thinking, kind of worked out to, there's a way to turn this into a system. There has to be.
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest challenge is now the same challenge that I had when I was working with my IT company. And that was, how do you find more clients? And how do you do more work for the clients you have? So once you understand those points and how those two things work, then the rest of it is a formula in how to put the posing together or the layouts. I photograph the Segerstrom Shelby Event Center calendar every year. This is the world's largest collection of Shelby cars on display.
Wow.
And the most challenging thing about that is finding new ways to make cars look pretty in this museum that doesn't change. The
Mm-hmm.
staff is awesome and they move the cars around for me. Well, I've got 95 cars of basically 5 model years that I need to make look different every time. Sounds amazing until you get through about number 15. And it's like, my God, what do we do? What do we do? How do we make this different?
And I suppose that's the advantage of people, that everybody's different.
Everybody's different. And with people, every person has a different set of insecurities. They have a different set of things that they want to see. So I get to talk with them more and find out what they love about their lives, and then show them how great their lives are when they don't necessarily see them on their own. With
So
cars, they kind of sit there and I have to make the owners happy.
yeah. Yeah, totally different thing, isn't it? It really is. So in the UK, when people are often starting out in photography and they're making that transition into it, or they've gone from college, most people go down the wedding route and start doing wedding photography and things like that. Did that ever cross your mind? Is that a thing in the US?
Let me think about it personally. Oh, God, hell no. No, absolutely not. I would rather do IT than a wedding.
Why? Why, Dwayne? Why? Why? Because it's still people. What would? Come on, tell me.
I actually like having a safety net.
Right.
My biggest fear in a wedding, and it's never happened, I am probably my own worst critic, but I don't ever want to show anybody a photograph that I am not 100% enthralled with. And the idea that I may not get that photograph as somebody is saying I do for the one and only time in their life this week, um, I just don't want to be there. I don't want to be surprised on the day of the wedding that in a 300-person wedding, I am responsible for doing family formals and realizing that I can't really converse even for 10 minutes with 20 people in that family.
Right.
Um, I like knowing that I can pick and choose my clients before they come into the studio. And as
Right.
far as it being
So would you reject somebody then? Would you reject somebody coming into the studio?
I do all the time.
Okay.
I reject for a number of reasons. If somebody's expectations isn't what I deliver, isn't what I'm comfortable photographing, I am okay in letting them know. I am okay in letting them know that I am probably not the right photographer for them and give them a referral to somebody else. And I do this for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's going to make a really long day at work. Number two, when you look at the end process, if they want something you're not used to doing, what are the chances that they will or will not give you a referral? Well, if they give you a referral and you do the job wonderfully, well, now you have to do it again when somebody else reads that referral and calls you up. And if you don't do the job wonderfully in today's world of social media, how many times are they going to post how much they hated the experience with you? And it's never going to be mentioned that they asked you to do something you didn't want to do. And to a degree, it still is your fault for not turning it away. Um,
So yeah, and that's a big thing in this day and age. That it's a trust factor, isn't it? That they're trusting you and you're trusting them. How do you understand that then? How do you understand that they're not right? What's led you to believe that you can work that out and understand that some people aren't right? And is there any like wah meaning going, Craigie, get away from this person? I don't want, what is it?
I call it the spider tinglies. The
Okay.
spider senses are going off. The hairs on the back of your neck are standing up. You'll find in a more physical sort of way that the spider senses reveal themselves when you are forcing yourself to have a conversation with somebody. When you agree that you're going to call this person for another chat, whatever it is, at 2 o'clock on Tuesday of next week, and at 10 o'clock on Tuesday morning, you're going, check your calendar. Oh, phone call at 2. Oh, phone call at 2. And then you're looking at 9 a.m., 10 a.m., 11 a.m., going, what else can I do? Yes, maybe I'm getting sick. I'm going to have to go home. I'm not going to be able to make this phone call. And then you're looking for other meetings that you're hoping are going to run late. And then you find yourself starting to text this person going, we need to reschedule. Or you finally pick up the phone and your hand is quivering as you are dialing because you don't want to dial the last digit and actually initiate the phone call.
So you've obviously
Then,
had some form of communication with them in the first place, and like everybody, we just don't connect with everybody. Sometimes, there's not everybody in the world's going to love us, and you can hope they would, but that's not reality. And
oh, yes,
whatever
it is,
person.
at least in my case.
Well, I need a bit of your stuff then, because But so it's those little senses that you've had that conversation, or they've been into the studio, you've chatted, and you've gone, yeah, there's something that's just not clicking.
On one end of the scale, it's obvious because it doesn't click. But I also use what I call my Friday night hang out with a friend scale. Because there are some friends that I can't wait to go meet up for dinner with on Friday night.
Hmm.
Because although we have nothing really planned, we just know the conversation's going to go nonstop, the drinks are going to be flowing, and the laughs are just going to come naturally.
Yeah,
And then there's those friends that you don't mind hanging out with, but if you never saw them again, you probably wouldn't miss them. The conversations can happen, but they always seem to take work. And after you're done with the meeting, you come home and go, oh God, that was a dreadful night. Or that night was a
hard
lot of
work.
work, even if it was
Yeah,
fun.
yeah, hard work.
And clients fall into the same categories. There's no, I'm sure there's clients that love my dad jokes. And then there's a lot of clients who are like, just shut up and take the damn picture.
Yeah.
So you've got to be hyper aware of that to figure out who it is you want to work with. I spent 30 years with IT and decided to get rid of that. I don't want to do it again with my studio, not unless I get to retire and never have to work again in my life. But hey, I chose
Would
photography,
you
so
want to?
good luck.
Yeah. Would you choose to retire and never work again? Would you? Would you? Can you? I mean, I've asked this before. I was talking to Claire last week, and I asked her the same question about retirement. And what's your view on that? Is it something you would ever do? Would you contemplate it? Have financially or just artistically?
Um, I don't think I will ever retire. I don't think I will ever stop photographing. To me, retirement means I don't have to get up 5 days a week and make sure my calendar is full. What
Hmm.
retirement means is, oh, Andrew, it's been great chatting. You should come by the studio and we should do a portrait session for you and your wife. And we get to do it because we enjoy it.
You can. Yeah.
Um,
It's a
if
shame
I,
that we've got. It's a shame, really, in a way, that we've got to make money to live, because it sounds as if it's something that you would do forever, no matter what.
I expect, well, a friend of mine likes to say that he will be photographing until you pry the camera out of his dead cold hands. And I actually call him lazy because you will not be prying the photograph out of my dead cold hands. That will be going into the crematorium with the rest of my body. So I can be with my camera all through eternity.
Right. Yeah. It's it's funny, isn't it? Because you do, if you find the true passion in life, and it's there forever, and it's and being a professional, earning money is part of the business side of it. But there's so many people out there that just wish they could do it without the money side of it, and just be creative. If you could just be creative and not have to worry about the money side of it, do you think you'd do anything differently?
I would travel a lot more. Um, in working out of a studio, as an example,
Hmm.
being creative in posing and being a minimalistic photographer. The less I can incorporate into a photograph and make it unique and interesting, even better. When I travel, I mentioned earlier that I'm not a fan of landscape photography, but my God, do I love destination photography. And as an example, what I mean is in Japan, there is this word called unkai, and it means ocean of clouds.
Wow. Yeah,
And
lovely.
if you think of some time that maybe you've been on an airplane and either normally upon takeoff or landing, you have to fly through a level of clouds and you look
Yeah.
down and you see the clouds.
Yeah, an ocean of
That's
clouds.
cool.
Yeah.
Unkai is, in Japan, is when you climb to a level on a mountain and the clouds blow in and surround you. You keep climbing another 50, 75, 100 feet, and now you're at a point where you look down at the clouds. And it is the most surreal thing that I have ever seen. And in my case, it started off with seeing these time lapses on TV and then finding out where they were. And fortunately, Japan is one of the places.
Right.
Last August, I learned that during one of my work trips, there was a mountain called Mount Saduki. And during certain times of the year, keyword there, certain times, not 365 days, this phenomena is possible and fairly easily to be viewed. Fairly easily meaning you only have to climb the third tallest mountain in Japan. And in this case, they actually had a tram for the first 30% of that climb.
All right. Yeah.
Looking at the calendars, it's like it may actually be taking place during the time I'm there.
Oh, wow.
So, wow, this is possible. Oh, wait, mountain, camera gear,
Stairmaster for
glass.
a few months before.
Repeat that?
Stairmaster for a few months before, really. Especially with
I'm
the hip.
going, I run 5 miles a day. Even after surgery, I can probably do this,
Okay.
minus the dizzy spells. And oh, wait a minute. Andrew, what do you photograph clouds with?
Yeah, well, usually a camera.
But what lens?
Oh, heck. Yeah.
This is where it becomes interesting. Do I want to carry a telephoto? Do I want to carry a wide angle? Do I want to carry an everything lens? Because we are hiking the third tallest mountain in Japan. And every pound in that backpack weighs a lot with every step you take going uphill. And something that is unique about Japan over the United States, it's one of the many countries in the world where you fall, you do something, we'll say stupid, it's your fault, not somebody else's fault.
Right.
So pack carefully, step cautiously. And then figuring out, where do I stay? Am I now turning this into a full backpacking trip and finding lodging? So all of these logistics go in. And I get it planned out. I decide I am going to take the telephoto. I'm going
So
to
not a
take
wide
the
angle. Not like a 28 to 1,000 if they did one.
No, I opted for the 70 to 200 mirrorless. That
Right.
weighs half of what the mirrored version weighs.
Okay.
And decided, yeah, this is going to be a hero shot, so I have to carry the tripod. I'm also going to carry the 2470 2.8 because if I really want to go wide angle, well, I can photo stack them. Nodal
Yeah,
point
yeah.
adapter, rotate it properly. I can drop at least one lens. What I could not tell, what I didn't know is how far away from the mountain are the clouds going to be? How close are they going to be? So I didn't want to get up there and then find out the clouds are circling me and I'm literally coming out of them again like Aladdin. So I make my way to Japan. I rent a car. I drive on the wrong side of the street. Well, it may be the right side for your part of the world.
Yes.
I get
The
out of
correct
town.
side. The correct side. Let's just put it out there.
I make it out of Japanese traffic and drive through the mountain towns, make it to the lift area, and find my way on the gondola going up the mountain. Well, Japanese to English can be very confusing at times. It was more of a lift chair, not a gondola.
Okay.
So I now have my backpack strapped around the front of me, holding on for dear life, because apparently safety rails don't exist either. A little tilt too far forward, you're falling face first onto the ground about 20 feet below you. We get off of the gondola or off of the lift chair, and what I thought was going to be an easy hike, they forgot to supply oxygen.
Oh,
And
right.
the hour hike took about 3 hours to get to the cabin, where I was so out of breath, it took me almost 10 minutes to order my first beer. Couldn't even get the
Still a
words
beer,
out.
though. Still a beer.
It was either going to be a beer or a glass of sake. Um, inside of the mountain hut, this is a place where people can't hike up to. They stay the night and then hike back down. It was amazing because there was a group of 4 women hiking on their own, and the youngest one was 75 years old. It amazes me to see how much more active people are when we get outside of the States, but that's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
I am sitting down, I get my beer, I open it, I'm halfway through, and suddenly everybody leaves. What the hell? I don't think I did anything rude. And then I'm looking outside. It's like, oh, they're watching clouds. What's going on? Because I thought this was taking place in the morning. So I pull the camera out of my bag. I go walking out to catch up with everybody. And these cloud tunnels are opening up. And I'm watching this phenomena that I hiked for in confusion because it's blue instead of orange. And it's the evening Unkai. And I pull my camera out. I press the button. And I look inside and it goes, your battery is dead. Shutter's been locked. I'm like, oh, what the hell? Reaching into the bag, I grab another battery, throw it inside quickly, and I probably get about 15 shots off before the light's gone totally flat and this amazing view has just disappeared. I'll tease you. I have a couple of photographs out that we can show from that.
Right.
And I'm
Lovely.
thinking, that was it. That was worth the hike. The dead battery. Oh, wait. Dead battery is photographer talk for God wants you to appreciate this all to yourself and not share it with everybody else.
Aye. Yeah.
Or it just means that I really effed up.
Yes, it's that typical thing, isn't it? You know, if it's going to happen, it will. It can. It will. You know.
Are you trying to quote another one of my ancestors, Murphy?
Yeah, there's something in there, isn't there? A bit of a law somewhere.
Exactly. So we go back in, we have dinner. I call it a night, go to bed, and I wake up the next morning. And I start to grab breakfast and I look around and everybody evacuates again. It's like, crap, where are they going this time? And this time I made sure I got full batteries. I even have my DJI with me and I make it out and the sun is just coming up. And walking out to where I looked where the sun was coming up. I turned the opposite direction and I set up the DJI into time-lapse mode, and it's just panning back and forth, photographing as clouds are moving, sun's getting higher, and I've got the long lens set up on the tripod as I'm watching the clouds turn orange, and I really can't put words to how amazingly stunning this was. Seeing the clouds first dancing at the edge, and I'm standing on the equivalent of a wooden pier, at the top of the mountain, and the clouds literally come in to the base of the pier and then start surrounding me. It's the most gorgeous sight I have ever seen. And it moves from one side to the other side of the mountaintop. So I leave the DJI where it's at, just photographing. I want it to cover the next 3 hours. I go photograph the other side to get another view of the Unkai. And the next thing I realize is there is this really amazingly cute 75-year-old lady tapping me on the shoulder going, "Here, you forgot your camera."
Oh.
I'm like, no! Normally that would be 100% true, but no!
So have you got some of these beautiful pictures on your wall then? Have we got portraits at home for them? Have you ever done that?
I actually have one that we had printed in Japan on washi paper, and that is hanging in our home now.
Fab. Brilliant.
That was one of the photographs that I have purposely entered into a couple of image competitions, photo contests, and anywhere it goes, it is very highly talked about.
Yeah, because it's and you can tell it means the world to you, the story, the whole. And I think obviously it's so ingrained in you that so when you see it, that story is just there in your forefront of your brain, isn't it? You know,
it's what makes, like I said, landscape photography to me in itself isn't exciting, but call it high stakes poker, if you will. I have exhibited at so many art shows, and I've listened to people go, "My God, that's a gorgeous photograph. We're going to be going there in 6 months. I can't wait to do that on my own." That's the successful view. I just got back from Japan, and tell me, have you ever heard of this small mountain called Mount Fuji?
oh yes, I know where Mount Fuji is. I think if you don't know where Mount Fuji is, yeah, there's something wrong.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that we're all on the same level here, because I've been traveling there for 20 years and I've seen Mount Fuji from a distance. It's literally the highest point in Japan, and there's not many places in Japan where you can't see this from.
I think as a photographer, you've got to know Mount Fuji with Fuji photography. You know, I mean, I suppose there's maybe people out there that don't know. You know, it's the mountaintop with the snow on and everything. But yeah, anybody that's in photography, one would hope they've heard of Fuji. But yeah,
You could not have laid the foundation of this next story any better, Andrew.
right.
So at the base of Mount Fuji is a place called the Five Lakes. These are between 8 and 15 miles away from Mount Fuji, the largest mountain in all of Japan. And we purposely planned a trip to spend a couple of days there. And upon the initial planning of the trip, the family picked literally 2 days. And I'm looking at weather reports going, nope, we got to be there at least 3. And there's a possibility that on the way home of day number 3, if weather is just turning out good, I'm not coming back. So we make our way out to Mount Ninja Fuji. Ninja is the Japanese mystery hide in the shadows person that you never see until it's too late. And we spend 3 days in this amazing cabin. And again, all of the planning that I put into photographing the Unkai went into planning Mount Fuji. What lenses, what bag, where are we going to photograph it from? Where is the ideal location that will be good for me? Mm-hmm. There's many ideal locations to photograph this place. And there was one in particular that I wanted, and we found that location. And when we looked out to Mount Fuji, what we saw was a snowstorm that dumped 6 inches of snow. Didn't even see an outline of Mount Fuji.
Yeah, white.
We found this spot. There are several markers to show that you are in the right spot. and Fuji is supposed to be here in the side, and all it is open gray. So I have traveled 6,000 miles, rented cabins, been on planes, trains, automobiles, and buses, hiked for miles, and apparently never got to see Fuji, so I'll have to do it all over again.
And you don't get that with portraiture, do you? Really? That doesn't tend to happen in a studio. I think so. Yeah, there's a big difference, isn't there? And I think it's that. But I suppose for a lot of photographers that do landscapes and things, it's that anticipation, isn't it? Are you going to get there? Is it going to happen? And is the light going to be right? Is the sun going to? And I think I can understand the joy from that side of things, and anyone that's creative, we just love to see beauty, whether it's beauty in a portrait, beauty in a landscape, beauty in the world. I think it's having your eyes open, really, isn't it?
There's the beauty of it, and then as I keep getting older and I have more success, I keep thinking everything's going to work out. So it was a wonderful reminder that you also have to have a plan B, C, and D even, because it is still one of the most gorgeous spots in the world. And I had to think about, when I saw the snowstorm coming, going, well, California weathercasters typically can't tell the weather when they put their head out the window. So
I don't think they have to, according to you. If you only get 3 days of rain, you don't have to be a genius to do the weather in where you live. It's not the UK.
It's at a whole nother level when they still screw it up. But I've just gone 6,000 miles. So what's my plan B going to be? And I have to remember to be open enough to change plans 350 degrees maybe. Maybe changing from Mount Fuji to a lake isn't good enough because we had such limited visibility, and I'm in one of the largest tourist bus stops in existence. What else am I going to photograph that is going to make the trip worth the expense of airfare, the expense of hotels, traveling literally days to go 6,000 miles again, and come home with something that's going to be enjoyable instead of an embarrassing story where a photographer can't find a mountain, quite literally. So we'll share some of that work with you as well.
Okay, fab. Yeah, I'd love. I think people would love to see that. So that's the creative that you love to show, and you've said to me there that you've put them into the clouds into competitions. Do you do any other competitions? Do you do portrait competitions? Do you find that worthwhile? Is it beneficial?
When I was learning, and you asked if I was able to throw a switch and go from IT to photography. The competitions were hugely helpful when I was trying to figure out if I am really good enough to do this. And so by entering my work, it helped me develop technically, did not help me develop creatively. And so it was hugely useful with my portrait work. It helped me understand what I knew about lighting, helped me understand where I could improve with lighting, and when I could bite my tongue and not want to provide justification for why I did something a certain way, it helped me realize that when somebody looks at a picture, there is no justification. There's only what's there. And what's there has to then be interesting enough, has to be emotional enough, has to be creative enough to initiate a story in some other viewer's mind. And that story is going to be different from the client versus an observer.
So it gives you, in a way, you're saying doing something like that, having the technical knowledge, is giving you the confidence to deliver for whoever it be, and to give you the sound mind that you can do that. Is that what you're saying?
Pretty much. I would slightly edit that a little bit to say that it showed that the technical knowledge that I had was good enough to create the emotions that I wanted people to see or feel. And if I didn't get the responses from judges that I was hoping for, then that was an indicator that I needed to work more on whatever my method was.
Right.
I now
For me,
sit on both.
see, one of those things I think of when it comes to portraiture is because you're dealing with a person and you're talking and you're communicating. I often think of the photography side of it. It's got to be a bit like driving a car. You don't have to. You shouldn't be really thinking about it. Really, you should just be able to do. Um, Now doing it at different levels, from being like the best driver in the world to just passing your test, is a huge big difference. But everybody believes they're brilliant at driving, and I think everyone believes they're brilliant at photography that does it. And there's obviously different levels. So was it that level of confidence that where? How long did it take you to get to that level that you thought, yeah, I'm okay. I don't, do you still enter them? Do you still do competitions? Do you feel you need to?
I don't enter them very often. I will enter them if I have a photograph that I'm not sure if I am personally attached to versus being technically solid. So after hiking mountains and going through what I went through to photograph the Yunkai, I really wanted to hear other people's comments about whether or not this magical experience held the same level of interest to them. With my portrait work, contests take on an entirely different meaning, because for my portrait work to be viable, the only person that needs to love it is the person that I create it for, my
Yeah.
client.
Mm-hmm.
I could care less what any judge has to say, because if a client is willing to give me money for it, then that portrait work is worth at least $1 more than they will ever hand me for that piece of work. And that is more than any judge can ever offer me in terms of a critique.
Yeah.
Now, entering that type of work into a contest may provide feedback from judges that would allow me to make that work more emotionally attachable to my next client than it did the last client. But not knowing the stories, not knowing how the who, what, where, when, or why of this portrait being created in the first place and how that ties into the client, I will never get that from an image competition.
Yeah. Yeah. It's got its place. It has its place in it, doesn't it? It's a different. I think as you get older and you do this job, you realise there's certain places and time for each individual, and I believe that competitions are really valuable in a lot of way, because there's nobody better than your peers to give you advice and say, you're rubbish, or wow, that's amazing, um, and I think it's really more to do with confidence for each individual to be able to
100%
connect.
agreed. Before I launched the studio, I actually did a number of First Saturday type art shows, a number of art walks. I've participated in a number of gallery events where I was showing flowers, showing scenery. And my belief is that the competitions, when you're in this type of environment, are hugely helpful, because a photograph that is technically well built, that does well in competition, because most competitions, most art is critiqued based on the 12 elements. When you understand those elements and can put that all into a single photograph, that photograph has a much higher commercial value. And I have gone, my smallest prints ever sold have been 8x10s like anybody else. And the largest prints that I've done to date have gone into literal walls of restaurants and buildings.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. It's fascinating to think that what we do can have so many different facets too, and different sort of areas of skill, emotional skill. Um, it's a real interesting genre that we all live in. Where would you like to see you living in this genre in the next 5, 10 years, Dwayne? Where do you want to be doing what you're doing? Do you just want to travel more? What have you thought about it? Have you planned for it? Is there something that you say this is my bucket list for the future?
In the next 5 to 10 years, I would like to see 3 different physical studios. Yep, I just said that out loud.
Wow.
2025, I believe that there is still a need for physical studio portraiture. Um, I don't believe AI will be able to replace it.
No.
Um, what
Why do
we
you
do
believe
in
that? Why do you believe that AI won't replace it? What's because that was said with some conviction there. So give me that conviction. Where is it from?
outside of my amazing forehead, couldn't you do this entire interview, this entire podcast with AI? But yet you are having different guests on board each week.
Yeah.
And the reason for it comes down to one thing. When people see portraits of themselves or their families, their loved ones, whether they're humans or pets, they want the memory of a real live experienced memory. They would know if Rufus the dog really wasn't sitting on King Arthur's chair or sitting on the sofa.
Yeah.
You would know as a father that you never went to the baseball park with your son if your son was a football player and those were the sports that he was interested in.
Hmm.
You would know the AI could design a very realistic likeness, but you would just know it wasn't him.
Yeah. It's that.
And
It's the memories, isn't it? It's the memories that we're talking about. Really, it's the connection of real, true memories, and I think that's the key with all portraiture. It's that spark of memory, the connection. Is that what you're?
the, the connection and the fact that it was a deliberate action taken,
Mhm.
that somebody had to make the arrangements with the photographer. And then on Saturday or Wednesday morning, everybody had to call in sick, take a day off from work, school, get dressed, put on their best clothes, travel to the studio, and leading up to this, put things into place so that Wednesday was going to be a happy morning of chaos for everybody, so that everybody was having a nice time at the studio. So
Yeah.
when the photographs come back, everybody goes, 5 years from now, remember that day.
Yeah.
It was such a pain in the ass, but I'm glad Dad, Andrew, made us do that
Yeah.
because we have this now.
Yeah. Yeah. So is that what you want to do and have many more studios doing that? I mean, would you like to be going to different ones to work, or would you just you want because that 3 studios is quite something to suddenly say I want this is what I'd like. How do you envision suddenly getting there? Have you planned it?
I actually do have a plan in place for that. Um,
Fabulous,
One
fabulous.
studio will be focusing entirely on boudoir. One will be focusing entirely on pets. The third studio Let's try that again. The third studio will likely be focusing on families. And if it turns out to be the two, I'm okay with that, because it's not a want, it's a need that I don't know how to explain, where I want people to have better lives. And if I can make somebody smile through a single photograph, then they're going to share that smile with their friends. And in turn, that allows me to accomplish that mission. So when I can help people feel better about themselves because they got bullied in school, because their once in a lifetime marriage didn't work, because their partnership didn't work out for whatever reason, the job didn't work, and this is something that allows them to see that they are still amazing human beings, even after turning 30, 40, 50 years old. That isn't a luxury product. That's something that people need. And it's something that AI isn't going to deliver. And I don't believe that the world of social media is going to make that go away. And if it's not in the empowerment realm, then in our case, waking up to our totally ungrateful rabbits every day. One of them, since I've gotten back from Japan, has decided my camera case is her official seat. She loves to sit there. So if I can bring these smiles to other people, regardless of how their dogs, cats, rabbits, guinea pigs, or fish make them smile, then I want to deliver that to them. And will I
Fabulous.
be photographing? Probably not. But if I can teach other people how to share this experience, if I can teach other people how to photograph and deliver this happiness to others, I think I'm still making the world better.
Yeah, pass that passion on. Well, Dwayne, it's been absolutely fantastic speaking to you. And hopefully you will be bringing lots and lots of smiles to lots and lots of people in the future. And I really appreciate the time and the stories as well, because I think that's what's important, really. It's the story. It's why we do this, isn't it? And I think a lot of people miss that point of the story of why we all do this. So it's been a real pleasure, and thank you very, very much for your time.
Love being here, Andrew. Thank you very much.
If you've enjoyed today's episode, if you could just do me one favour, and that would be to like and subscribe. And I'll do my best to make sure Behind the Lens finds the best professional photographers from all over the world so we can enjoy their life stories. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.